What's up guys, this is Danny from Rethink Peer-to-Peer Lending. Welcome back to another portfolio update on my channel. In today's video, we review the performance of my outstanding peer-to-peer portfolio in July, as well as discuss the most recent events that have happened in the industry. Among other topics, we will look at the shell game tricks of Estateguru, why Twino's approach to risk management has failed once again, and why Esketit lender AvaFin has now started to list assets on Mintos. If you want to receive daily updates from the peer-to-peer lending industry, then I highly recommend that you subscribe to either my Telegram or my WhatsApp channel, which I have both set up now in English as well. In July, I was able to generate a total income of 915 euro from my outstanding peer-to-peer portfolio, which is the highest amount since I started to invest in this asset class almost 7 years ago. New records in terms of my personal income from individual peer-to-peer platforms have been set in the previous month by Peerberry with 318 euro, Income Marketplace with 134 euro, Crowdpear with 102 euro, and Heavy Finance with 35 euro. The best overall performance in my portfolio comes from Income Marketplace with 13.32%, followed by Peerberry with 12.18% and Viainvest with 11.16%. The red lantern remains with Estateguru, where my total return fell to 6.2%. In July, I only had a total of 2 transactions in my portfolio, whereas in both cases it happened to be with platforms that made a comeback to my portfolio after a long time. As you probably saw in my previous videos, I invested 4,000 euro in an Esto bond on Mintos, as well as 2,000 euro on Debitum investments. Although I'm quite confident and happy about my latest additions, I'm also slightly concerned about the growing number of actively managed platforms in my portfolio, which has now increased to 11. For this reason, I am currently considering to temporarily cut off a few platforms, which would most likely affect smaller positions in my portfolio, such as Profitos or FinTown. The value of my outstanding peer-to-peer portfolio increased to 97,476 euros in July, which is now the biggest monthly increase since January 2019. Reaching an outstanding portfolio of more than 100,000 euro is to be expected in either August or September. Next up, let's take a closer look at a few events that have recently happened in the industry. Esketit has managed to increase the supply situation in recent months, which made investor assets under management grow by 8 million since the end of May. Especially the new AvaFin assets from Czech Republic have been a welcoming addition, given that their maturities of 8 to 12 months have helped to push the cash drag issue further to the back. At this point in time, only 25% of my portfolio has a maturity of less than 90 days, which means the time periods in which I have to actively manage my investments on Esketit have now become significantly longer. If there are more AvaFin assets ending up on the primary market in the upcoming weeks, I might consider increasing my portfolio on Esketit in the short term. On Income Marketplace, investor assets under management have grown by at least 1 million euro for the 5th month in a row. As the supply situation on the primary market remains on a stable high level, this trend could continue over the summer slump as well. According to Income CEO Lavrenti Tsudakov, the delay of onboarding new lenders in July was mainly due to lawyer unavailability and the extensive proposals from lender side regarding the framework agreement, which apparently has been 40 pages long. On the other hand, Crowdpear has recently reported the second default on the platform, in which I am also involved with 200 euros. In this specific case, the borrower has raised almost 100,000 euros via Crowdpear last year, spread over 4 financing stages. According to the platform, the project has been successfully developed so far, and the borrower has met its payment obligations on time. Most recently though, there has been a court order stating that the borrower was subject to insolvency proceedings, whereupon Crowdpear has cancelled the agreement with the borrower. According to a property evaluation from March this year, the value of the mortgage property is approximately 187,000 euros, which would translate to a 53% LTV. Although there is no specific time frame yet, the likelihood of investors losing any money seems pretty small. Next up, let's discuss Mintos for a second, where I have made my comeback after almost 4.5 years after my exit from the platform. The reason for my comeback has been the bond issuance by Estonian lender Esto, in which I invested 4,000 euros. Many investors might have been pleased as well recently, given the increasing interest rates across many lending companies. This has been triggered in particular by the new lending company Nera Capital, which joined the Mintos platform with large volumes and interest rates of up to 14%. To not miss out on the liquidity, some lenders have now been forced to adjust their offerings as well, including companies such as IDF Eurasia, Youth Group or Esto. A somewhat surprising and unexpected Mintos onboarding has recently happened with the new addition of the lending company AvaFin. At the beginning of the year, AvaFin was still largely owned by the two Esketit founders, while being one of the cornerstones of the platform's growth in recent years. The Mexican loan offer, which has been expected on Esketit for several months, has now surprisingly been placed on Mintos with a 10% interest rate. According to a recent conversation with Esketit CEO Vitalis Salovs, this move didn't happen due to more favorable financing costs or more liquidity, but because AvaFin has internal regulations according to which only a maximum of 25% of the portfolio is supposed to come from a specific source of financing. Because this limit has now been exhausted with roughly 16 million euros on Esketit, AvaFin has now made its debut on Mintos. A second comeback in my portfolio happened last month with Debitum Investments, one of the 5 beneficiaries from my recent trip to the Baltic states. The first 2,000 euros have already been deployed in July, while more funds are likely to be added in the upcoming months. My focus so far has been on assets by Sandbox Funding, where I also managed to benefit from an instant 2% cashback campaign. The remaining 40% of my funds have been deployed in assets by Triple Dragon and Juno Finance. Since I prefer a certain level of liquidity as well, around 97% of my investments have a term of less than 12 months, with an average term of around 7 months. When we look at Estateguru, we can recently witness some shady practices that the platform is applying in order to hide the reality from its bad portfolio quality. Instead of showcasing the overall performance of the outstanding portfolio, Estateguru made a breakdown into active markets and non-active markets to cover up the bad overall picture. The numbers for the non-active markets have even been diluted further by adding the historical repayments in order to make the percentage of actual defaults look smaller. If there was any respect left for Estateguru, then it's because they have at least owned their bad portfolio performance rather than now trying to fool investors with those shell game tricks. If you wonder what the overall portfolio of Estateguru looks like since the last performance update, the answer is most likely not going to surprise you. The total portfolio has decreased from 258 million euro to now 251.4 million euro, while the loans in debt collection have increased from 132.8 million euro to now 133.4 million euro. This means defaults in 2024 continue to grow faster than recoveries, which only totaled 4 million euro in the first half of this year. And finally, a few words about Twino as well, where the questionable risk management approach has been enriched by yet another sad chapter. Some investors have recently been informed about the insolvency of the Vietnamese lender, which back in the day was founded in collaboration with Via SMS Group. Around 600,000 euro of outstanding funds are expected to be repaid by the end of August and another 800,000 euro by January 2026. In terms of the remaining 1.3 million euro, no comment has been made yet, but the likelihood of investors suffering a loss seems inevitable at this point in time. after the lenders of Robocash and the Aventus Group had already exited from Vietnam in the second quarter of last year, it took Twino 12 months longer to announce the exit from Asia as well, which, as we can see now, has clearly come too late. What remains is the fact that Russia and Vietnam are already two incidents in the post-pandemic period in which Twino has massively failed to evaluate the country risk and to protect funds from investors, which have been let down by the platform once again.